And welcome to another Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. This is the show devoted to St. Mary's University and its athletic programs. I'm Dean Beckman, joined once again by our Sports Information Director, Donnie Netto. And Donnie, the last couple of weeks here on the Cardinals Nest, we've said it's great to have hockey season back. Now today, with our new head men's basketball coach, Joe Fano, with us, we get to say it's great to have basketball returning.
That's right, absolutely.
Yep, the season's starting up this Saturday. So Joe, welcome both to St. Mary's and to the Cardinals Nest program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Joe, we like to start off by sort of introducing our guests that haven't been on the show before to our viewers. And so, of course, you come to us, you were an associate head coach before coming to St. Mary's as now the head coach for the Cardinals team. But take us even farther back, kind of walk us through your interest in basketball. When did that start, and how did it start, and what did you do kind of from a player standpoint before you got into coaching?
Well, started in the Chicago Park District. I'm born and raised in Chicago, so the park system is pretty big in Chicago. So there was numerous parks around my neighborhood where we just play basketball. I was kind of a gym rat, going to the gym with my dad when he was playing in men's leagues and things like that, and I just go shoot around when I was 6, 7 years old. And then finally I reached an age where I got to start to play with them. When I was probably right before 7th, 8th grade, I got to play a little bit with them, and then played in grammar school and all that, and then went on to high school, played in high school, Fenwick High School in Oak Park. And then from there, I actually started coaching right away. Right out of high school, I was at Gordon Tech High School in Chicago, which is now DePaul Prep. I was there for about 8 years. We had a really successful teams there. We won regionals a few times, got into a sectional a few times. And then from there, I went to St. Ignatius High School. I was there for a year as a freshman coach. And then from St. Ignatius, went to Libertyville High School. And that's in the northern suburbs. Sure. And then from Libertyville, went on to Benedictine University, where we won conference 2 times there. Twice that I was there, and then we went on to the national championship game, which was an amazing experience. And then from there, went to North Park as the associate head coach there for 2 years, and that brought me to St. Mary's. So here I am.
So when you were coaching at the high school level, at what point did you say to yourself, I really want to get to that next level? I want to be a collegiate coach, either as an assistant or as a head coach. When did you sort of know that that was maybe your calling?
I kind of always wanted to. But my year at Gordon Tech, we had a lot of Division I players on our team, so it was a great experience to be able to really see what these guys are at the next level. So we had college coaches at our practices all the time, head coaches, assistant coaches just coming all the time. So you got to kind of feel of what the lifestyle was as a college coach. And we had Division I, Division II, Division III. We had players at all different levels. So from there, it kind of, piques your interest, and you start talking to them and seeing what they do and how they, and it's great to hear when you're a high school coach, you're a teacher. If you're a head coach, you're more than likely you're a teacher. You got another job in the building. In college, it's all basketball.
Right.
It's all basketball. So that's great. And then when you're young, you're like, man, that's all you get to do is coach basketball. So it's that's what's really kind of started it.
As you graduated from high school to the college ranks in terms of being an assistant, what was the biggest adjustment from coaching in high school to being an assistant? I'm not going to get to the head coach yet, but to being an assistant, what was your biggest adjustment that you had to make from a coaching standpoint?
I would say the length of the season is a lot longer in college. October 15th sneaks up a lot quicker. And I'm starting to realize in Minnesota, the high school season starts even later than Illinois does. So Illinois actually, boys team started practice yesterday, as a matter of fact. So it was about a 2 or 3 week difference. In the length of the game is, 40-minute game, and the grind of a college season compared to the high school season is something we're talking to our incoming freshmen now about just getting your bodies in shape and that type of thing, and being able to last throughout the season without getting injured, and how important weights are, and even nutrition and things like that. So I would say that would be one of the big differences from high school to college, is just adjusting to the time period.
How much did you learn as an assistant, especially because of the recruiting aspect of it? In high school, you kind of get what you get, but when you get to the college ranks, you're going out looking for people to play for you. How much learning did you have to do in terms of how to recruit, where to recruit, what to recruit? How do you see yourself seeing talent?
Well, well, you see it in the AAU tournaments, and then you go to a lot of the AAU tournaments and high school tournaments in June and July, and some of them now they're even starting in April and May for AAU, and you just got to get out and see them. But yeah, it's you got to go out and watch. And as a high school coach, you're talking to college coaches all the time that are coming in watching your players, so you're learning from them and what schools are about. And now in college, it's good because yeah, you can kind of recruit a kid that kind of fits your style of play, what you want to do, where your future is, and so you can recruit kids to fit that. Where in high school, like you said, you get what you get, and sometimes you have to adjust. And one of the things I've learned throughout the past is we've had some good seasons too, but we've had some bad seasons, and a lot of times you learn a lot from bad seasons too. It's not all you win 25 games and everything is great, and but you learn a lot, not only what to do, but you can also learn a lot what not to do, and how you handle different players in different situations. And there's so many things that come at you when you've been doing this for so long. You learn to deal with it, and you learn how to manage it and apply it and go from there.
So I want to get to your role in a little bit at Benedictine, but before we get to that, while we're on the recruiting angle, talk about relationships. It seems like what you've been talking about here, you have to build those relationships at the AAU level with high school coaches. I know when we had Coach Moore on, he talked about his relationships in hockey. So from a recruiting standpoint, how much is it that and trusting those relationships, and how much is it just looking at raw talent and trying to go find it?
Well, it's a combination of both, but it definitely starts with relationships and starting there and getting out and seeing kids as early as you can, and trying to, whether you're texting them and phone calls, and just try to get in front of them as much as you can. And you got to have a good staff behind you too that is willing to go out and do all the work and build those same relationships because they're working for the program. So which is what we try to do, and get out there. And texting's a big thing now with kids. Right. It's crazy. You call them 6 times, they don't answer, but then you text them a minute later and they give you their whole life story. So,
you're recruiting my son, are you? I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that have changed. I mean, we're back, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe you're probably writing a lot of letters, and we still do those things. I think it's important. We, handwritten notes and things like that. But now I think texting is really important, and now with social media, and of course there's guidelines with Division III on when you can do certain things and can't do them. But yeah, I would say just relationships and going out, watching them play, getting to know them, really sitting them down and talking to them, which is kind of similar to what I'm doing with my guys now, is just getting to know them and get what makes them tick and things like that. And we're trying to get high character kids that can play and that can get their schoolwork done and handle the grind of the season.
I think the other thing too is wanted to bring up quick is every player is different, right?
Sure.
You have some who want the constant texts and sort of acknowledgement that you're interested in them, and then you have others who maybe prefer a more laid back approach.
Sure.
And don't want to be contacted as much. How difficult is it to try to gauge each individual player you're recruiting?
Well, you do that by getting in front of them, right, and talking to them. That's how you learn things from that. And then you can tell, and we tell our guys, I said, listen, or even our recruits, I said, be honest with us, and we're going to be honest with you. So if you like something, tell us you love it. If there's something you don't like, tell us that too. Right. We want to hear that, because it could be a simple answer. Yeah. I mean, it could be, maybe they say, oh, wow, that explains why we do this or why we do that. And so I think just building that trust and getting them in front. And when we talk to their parents, and parents are more, they're going to be more a little outgoing than the kid will. So a lot of times I'll ask, hey, Donnie, do you have any questions? No. But then the parents will say, well, I do. So they ask the questions for them. And I think when you're just building that trust and just building trust in the relationship. So,
okay. What has been the biggest adjustment now going from an assistant coach at the collegiate level to now the head coach at St. Mary's? What has been the biggest challenge from the time you stepped onto our campus to today?
Just the amount of people that want to talk to you, I would say, now that you have the title. Practices, to be quite honest, in practices and that stuff, it's kind of all been the same, because, I mean, most places, at Benedictine and North Park both, it was always we would just meet as a staff and we'd all talk about practice plan and go through the game plan, and it was kind of just everybody just, so that part is all kind of a lot of the same, but it's more like this kind of stuff and just all the people that would reach out and being around campus and going to introduce yourself and things like that has been probably the biggest, I wouldn't say it's a challenge, but it was probably the biggest adjustment to just, you got to be out there and meet everybody and talk with, certain professors and people around the school. So I would say that would be the biggest.
So I was going to say, talk about your role first at Benedictine and then at North Park. Kind of a true assistant at Benedictine, then the associate head coach at North Park. So maybe talk about what your roles were there and how they changed from Benedictine to North Park.
Well, it was to be quite honest, associate head coach is just a fancy title, so it's really no different.
Hey, Donnie likes fancy titles too.
Yeah, I mean, but if they want to give it to me, I'll take it. But it was really, I mean, the responsibilities were really the same. I probably at Benedictine, I had more. We talked about we kind of changed our offensive system at Benedictine a little bit from my first year to the second year. My first year, I was a part-time assistant. So then I was able to, I got the full-time assistant at Benedictine, and we kind of changed some things around offensively, and we met as a staff and went through all that, and we decided to go this route. And so there was some things on there more offensively that I was more involved with, I guess, even maybe behind the scenes on court a little bit as well. Where at North Park, I kind of came into a veteran team that had potential to be a real. So we did a little bit of tweaks here and there at North Park. But from a recruiting standpoint and all that, it was pretty much the same responsibilities at both schools. Nothing really changed from one to the next.
One of the things I've been thinking about basically since you took the job, and having known your background, you're from Chicago, you grew up in Chicago, you coached in Chicago, and now you come to Winona, Minnesota. So you're away from that comfort of the Chicago area. How big of an adjustment has that been for you personally and professionally to come from something that you're very comfortable with? You show up on campus, you might know me because I was on the committee, but I mean, you don't really know anybody. Right. What's that been like?
It's been an adjustment, but it's been great too. One thing I'll say about St. Mary's is that everybody has just been so welcoming and helping, and I really mean that, from everybody from Father Burns being the new president to our new AD to everybody in the office. Everybody's always asking if I need anything. So they were very, very good helping me get through things, and if I had any questions, and I still have questions. Tony Winter. But everybody's been great with that, and so it's helped me adjust a lot easier from a professional standpoint. And obviously, living in Chicago my whole life, it's a change. But it's something that I really wanted, and this is something that I really wanted, and I knew that coming in, that it's going to be different, and but it's been great overall. So it's been, the Chicago, there's always something going on, but now with basketball season starting, we're busy all the time. I mean, we had our scrimmage, and we're out of the building. We leave the building at 8:30. We get back at 10:30 at night. So it's just, you don't have time to do. Now it's just all basketball anyway. So you're just kind of in the grind of the season and getting ready to go, and so it's been great overall. It's been great overall.
So just one more question before we get to more basketball stuff and talking about this year's team. And for one thing, I'm sure Tony Piscatello was a friendly face too, right?
Yep.
Because he's also got a lot of Chicago ties and connections, and I know you know him. But the other question just sort of has to do with your interest in the position. When the position opened up, what inside of you said, that's a job that I really want?
Well, it's funny because I asked that question to a former head coach here, Will Ray, who was coaching when I was in high school here, and I've looked at the records in the past here, and it hasn't been the best, and I asked him literally maybe 6 months ago. I said, or a year ago now, but I said, what St. Mary's? I go, I think, because I almost went to St. Mary's. So I visited here, and I thought it was beautiful. The campus is great. And so that just piqued my interest. And then I was just all of a sudden I was at home, and I saw the job opened, and I was like, oh my God, the St. Mary's job is open. And I just kind of got on it right away, and I started calling, made my contacts, got my interview or my resume ready, and sent everything in, and now here I am. But I think it's a great place. I mean, the campus is beautiful, and when people get up here, when the kids get up here, it's like, oh wow, this is really nice. So I mean, of course, not every school is for everybody, but we've had a lot of great visits so far. We've already gotten one commit on the year, which is earliest than I've ever had in my years in college. So it's been good. It's been good.
All right, good. So when we come back here on the Cardinals Nest, we're going to talk more with Joe Fano, our new head men's basketball coach, and we'll talk about this upcoming season as they're ready to get started this weekend with the schedule beginning. We'll find out about that and more when we return here on HBC.
Schultz Strategic Gunworks, Sugarloaf Ford, and Brewski's Bar and Grill in Utica would like to remind you to make safe choices when getting behind the wheel of a vehicle.
Driving while under the influence of alcohol or drugs is the #1 cause of teen deaths. Distracted driving increases your chances to have a traffic accident. Cell phones and passengers are both distractions to a teen driver. Drowsiness impairs driving performance and reaction time, thereby increasing the likelihood of having a car accident.
Elevate your HBC TV experience with the latest technology to hit your whole home entertainment system. Record up to 6 programs simultaneously and save up to 350 hours of your favorite shows. Pause a program you're watching in one room and pick right up where you left off in another. Video on demand, wireless set-top boxes and mobile device streaming, apps including Alexa, Netflix, YouTube, and more. Call 888-474.
And we're back here on the Cardinals Nest with our new head men's basketball coach, Joe Fano, joining us on the Nest. And Donnie, you do a lot of the pregame materials for all of the teams at St. Mary's, and you've had to prepare some men's basketball stuff for this weekend because they play at Crown College.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to believe, Coach, that the season is getting underway. You know, you got on campus. You mentioned October 15th rolls around pretty fast, and it really does.
Yeah.
Going back to the end of the first break, and we were talking about what piqued your interest about this position, and I've got to imagine one of the challenges is turning this program around.
Sure.
You know, 1-24 last year is not something that you want to inherit as a coach. But talk about your plan to get this program rolling in the right direction. Obviously, it's probably not a one-year fix,
sure.
But talk about what you see for this program moving forward.
Well, I think the main thing is getting to know my team first, and getting to know them and bringing them in and having individual meetings and just really getting to know them and getting them to giving them my vision and what I want and what I see, and then getting them to trust each other, just trust me, just like recruits. So that's been #1 for me, is just getting to know them, and then inheriting that team. You know, when you look for a job, you look at the roster and say, did we have a bunch of seniors last year? Did we have a bunch of guys that graduated? Well, we're a young team. We got a lot of freshmen and sophomores. We only have 1 senior. So that to me is something to build on from there. I mean, and it's 1-24. We can only get better, hopefully. So but yeah, so it's getting the guys to buy in and work with them and just sharing them my background a little bit and what I see. And so far it's been really good. The guys are working really, really hard. The past 3 weeks, of course, we've had some practices that have gone up and down a little bit, but that's going to happen everywhere. That's across the country, no matter what. You're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds. They're going to have good days. They're going to have bad days. And there's sometimes, yesterday's practice, I thought we went for 2 hours yesterday. The first hour and a half was fantastic. It was awesome. And then we went up and down, and it was the worst basketball I've seen in a long time. So it was just what happened, what happened. But and then we just kind of called it and said, all right, let's move on and let's have a good practice today. So so yeah.
Is there an adjustment period for the players? Obviously, you're coming in. You've got your ideas, your game plan, your practices may be different than what they're used to. Sure. Is there an adjustment for the players to try and okay, this is how we're doing things now compared to how we did them for the last?
Oh yeah. That's a big difference. Is just part of the culture that you're trying to change and things like that, and getting guys like, this is not how it's done, and it's not their fault because that's what they've been trained in their minds to know because they've done this system for however many years. But the good part of that to our roster is we have a lot of incoming freshmen that don't know what happened the last few years or however many because they haven't been here. Right. So they don't know a system that they need to change. They're adjusting from high school to college. They're not adjusting to the previous coach that had his system all laid out. So there's principles that we need to change. And I told them, I said, I got to be patient with you guys, and you're going to have to be patient with me. And it's just part of the learning process. And again, it's getting to know my team and figuring out how to push each buttons and what works for this guy may not work for the next guy, and just getting them to really buy in and change and just get better every day.
You mentioned that you only have 1 senior on the squad, Bradley Hill. How do how do you look for your leaders? You know, usually a coach will look to the seniors or the upperclassmen to be the leaders, and I'm not saying Bradley's not,
Sure.
but what I'm getting at is that with so many young people, who's going to help Bradley as that lone senior to kind of lead this team this year?
Well, I've talked to them about that, and Brad has been awesome. He's been awesome. He's an energy guy. He's great in practice. He's so coachable. Everything I've asked him to do, he does. You know, it's yes, coach, thank you, and he's been great, and he's a great example for the younger guys to learn from him. But I've also had some talk with our younger guys and say, hey, you know, it's a young team. Don't be afraid to open your mouth and talk and be a leader. And I want coaches on the floor that can play. And I've told my guys it's kind of the style of play that I want to run. It's an equal opportunity offense, and I want 5. If I can have 5 coaches on the floor, that's great. You know, so that's part of our. That's part of our philosophy is getting guys to talk and get on each other and hold each other accountable in a respectful manner. And we sometimes even have to practice that. I mean, we'll practice how to hold your teammate accountable. Mm-hmm. If there's a loose ball, how do you react? Or if there's a turnover, how do you react to that? You know, or we're going to make some bad plays. We're going to make some bonehead plays in a game sometimes, but how do you react? And a lot of times it makes the player feel a lot comfortable, makes them feel a lot better getting through that if your teammates are supportive. If you don't have a supportive team, maybe the player gets down on himself a little bit more. So holding each other accountable and holding themselves accountable is a big thing.
So you've got Crown College this weekend. We'll talk more about the schedule coming up, but you had a scrimmage earlier this week. So tell us about how the scrimmage went and what you saw from the team, some of the strengths and then some areas that you need to improve on.
Yeah, we played. We were up in UW Superior on Saturday. We played 3 halves. The first 2 halves, we kind of wiped the score after 20 minutes. So you play for 20 minutes, wipe the score, start again. Sure. So we won the first half by 8 points. We played really hard. We played well. We missed some easy shots though. We watched film of that yesterday, and we left. We counted. We left 12 points on the board, just missing some easy layups, getting to the rim, not finishing. So that's something that we've worked on a little bit yesterday, is just getting the pad out and getting guys finishing strong to the rim, and how important that is. And little things are a big thing. It's not about plays and all that. You can run all the plays in the world, but if you can't make a layup and you can't finish, it doesn't matter what you run. So fundamentals has been a big thing, not only going forward, but all year, and we saw that in our scrimmage the other day. So overall, we won the game, so it was encouraging from that standpoint. But we also know we have a long way to go, and our guys know that, and it's getting ready to go on Saturday for the real game.
The other thing Coach Fano learned is how far UW Superior is from Winona.
Yeah, being a Chicago guy, like I said to you earlier, I said when my assistant, this game was not scheduled before I got here, so I said we need to play somebody before our first game. So my assistant Kyle Brown called Greg Polkowski, the coach there, and said, you know, you want to play in a scrimmage? And so Kyle said, yeah, it's in, okay. Well, me being from Chicago, I hear Wisconsin. I'm like, well, it can't be that far. And then about a week ago, like I found out it was 3.5 hours away.
Right,
so I'm like,
right.
and then the bus broke down on the way home. So, so yeah, so it took us an extra hour and a half, 2 hours to get home. But everybody was great. A few coaches came out and helped us out and picked us up in vans.
So, Donnie, do they play at Concordia this year?
I believe they do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Coach, you know, you talked about the importance of playing that scrimmage, and actually your schedule is an interesting one, in where you've got had the scrimmage last Saturday. Now you've got back-to-back games this weekend against Crown and UW lacrosse.
Yes.
Then you have kind of the week off, and you play Martin Luther.
Right.
And then you get an exhibition game against Winona State. So it's kind of all jumbled in terms of what you're doing. How important is this early part of the schedule preparing you for the conference?
Well, yeah, it's important. I mean, every game is important, and it's not an ideal schedule, but that was what I got. So we're going to change that next year. But we have, it's right now we're focused on Crown, and we're focused on Crown, and we do have an advantage there where they play Thursday, so we'll be able to scout them before we play, which is to our advantage. So hopefully we can take advantage of that and go in there. We'll be prepared, and then Sunday we got lacrosse. So for me, our first year, first game, and then not have time to really prepare for. Not necessarily not prepare, because Sunday morning we're going to have to get, and now it's going to be all lacrosse. But it's not like we can have 2 or 3 practices to, okay, now we can work on things, we can watch film and go over it, but obviously with us playing the same back-to-back nights, we're not going to be able to really get after it hard in practice and really learn for it. So yeah, it's important for us to get off to a good start, and that's why this week of practice is very important. It's game week. I mean, so the guys are excited, and they should be, and if they're not, then maybe they shouldn't be here. But because you should be excited when you got your first game coming up. So
might be a silly question, but talk a little bit about the importance of scouting, of film work, because you guys prepare, as every coach does, game by game, but basketball I always find interesting in how much you utilize video and how much you utilize scouting reports as you prepare for each team. Talk a little bit, maybe without giving away anything, about how you prepare for Crown.
Well, yeah, we have we start by watching a little bit from what they did last year. Check their roster. They're going to have some new guys. There's going to be some guys that graduated. So there's some guys that have been in the league and they know from last year who they have a couple. They're better players returning, so we know that. But then we have a video service, Synergy, that we go on, and we have access to games, all Division I, II, and III. So we can go out and prepare for that. And what we watch film, we break it down, and I like to give my guys, maybe 7 to 8 offensive clips, defensive clips of each player. Go through that, make them watch that, and then we have it all written out, and we go through our game plan and some strengths, some weaknesses, and then the day before, or depending on the time in the game, it's different. But a day or two before, we like to go over what they do, spend some time, about a half hour on that, going over everything, and make sure that they know what they're running, and get our guys prepared to to figure out what they're doing.
So, Joe, another thing too that's new for you is now you get to have an assistant coach, right? So you've got Kyle Brown returning this year. So tell us, as head coach now, how do you plan on utilizing Kyle? What will be some of his key roles this year for
Except for Kyle loving the NBA. He's been great. We kind of give him a hard time.
I liked your tweet the other day.
Yeah, I mean, I said he gets the best parking spot in the athletic department, and he's living life here. No, Kyle's been great. He's been great. He's been doing a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that I didn't know because I haven't been here. Sure. And he's been helping me out with all that stuff, and he's been great with the guys, and obviously he knows the guys because he's been here too. So just meeting with them and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Kyle's going to be doing, he's been great with recruiting. He's on top of things, and so yeah, I mean, his responsibilities, recruiting and he's going to do scouts too, some of them or most of them, and then we just talk from there and go from there. And he's had more on-court responsibilities as well, I think, than in the past, at least what he told me. So he's been kind of doing some defensive drill work with the guys, and he's been involved a lot, and he's been great. Yeah, so
well, we've talked about the preparation for the conference season. 28th, you open up St. Olaf. Talk a little bit about the MIC. I know it's going to be semi-new to you. I know you know the MIC, but talk a little bit about what your expectations are and what we can expect from St. Mary's in the conference.
And Joe, we got about a minute left.
Okay, yeah. No, it's a great conference. I know coming from the CCIW, which is one of the top conferences in the country. I know the MIAC is right up there too. So I know the quality of basketball that needs to be played in the style of play in the where we need to get to compete in this league. My experience seeing that even at Benedictine, our non-conference schedule was really, really strong in making it to the national tournament that year and last year in the CCIW, or last 2 years. So I'm prepared to where we need to go and what we need to be, and it's just getting our guys to buy in and figure that out, and the sooner they do, the better we'll be. So.
All right, well, Joe, it's great having you at St. Mary's, and good luck as you start the season now and throughout the year here.
Well, thanks. Thank you for having me.
All right, Joe Fano, our new head men's basketball coach at St. Mary's. Thanks for joining us on the Cardinals Nest here on HBC. Tune in again next week for another Cardinals Nest on TV 25.